those that don't know, my name is Nick D'Elia. My partner and I, Jamie from Jalen Associates, we are responsible for this program. We were just talking. We were running pretty strong there until last year when I got injured. So we're really excited to be able to get back on. Tonight's just a really, really important issue to everybody that you speak to in the fire and emergency services. You gotta get them in, you gotta keep them in, and you gotta make everybody that has an opportunity to come in. It's really just that simple. So we have 4 guests tonight. Chief Alston at this point he's got a little situation going on, so he's going to be zooming in on his phone. And we'll get him in. Obviously, Chief Alston is the chief of New Haven Fire Department. He's coming soon. He just sent me a message. We also have Steve Hoffman from the Colchester Fire Department. So we have all career. Then we have a combination system. And then I have one of my buddies here, Dan Krushinski from the East Franklin Fire Department down in New Jersey. 100% volunteer operation, dynamic operation. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with him and his people, and for a 100% volunteer operation, they get it done. And then got Shelly Carter. Shelly Carter has been motivating and moving people into the fire service and helping the fire service to get a broader view of the needs of the fire service for many years. And we're excited that you're here as well. And a new. I keep getting this. I'm just going to call you. If I have to call you by your names, because if I say Chief, everybody's going to answer me. That's going to be one of the problems. Okay. So are you assistant or deputy chief? I can't remember. Deputy?
Hold on.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I got you now.
Okay, I am the new assistant chief in Hamden.
Assistant chief, Hamden.
Yes.
Okay. You guys just had a fire, I think. If I remember correctly.
Well, just a few, maybe a week and a half ago.
Oh my goodness. I just opened my thing up. We have a lot of people.
I see Nick, but can't hear, someone said.
Oh, I see that.
Am I?
I might have. I'll message them. No, you're good. I can hear you.
All right. And then we have
Okay.
some of our other folks here. We got some chiefs, some fellow people from Jalen Associates. I should tell you that Jalen Associates, some of you know him, us as Top Rung. They are the sponsors of this program. And we started out doing some training. In the middle of COVID, and it's turned into this critical conversations. And what we try to do now is have critical conversations. So I'm gonna go with what we have. Dan, we're gonna start with you. So tell us.
I knew that.
So tell us your layout, and tell us you might happen to have this really good institution near you that helps to support you. But tell us your operation.
So East Franklin Fire Department, located in Somerset, New Jersey, part of Franklin Township Fire District 3, one of 10 fire companies in town, 2 fire companies in District 3. We run probably anywhere between 600 and 700 calls a year, average probably 1 to 2 structure fires or room and contents fires a month. We can go 2 months with nothing and then have 3 in 1 month. Last month we were very busy. We had a couple structure fires, shed fires, all kinds of stuff. We're 100% volunteer, but we do offer a low SAP, Length of Service Awards program through the Board of Fire Commissioners of Fire District 3. They are also supporting in a paid type per call. It's called dual reimbursement. It's $7.25 for the guys. That, if you get more than 75 calls per year, you're allowed to collect on that. So you could, if you're active and you come around and you get involved, and as busy as we are, you could make yourself $3,000 or $4,000 a year coming the fire calls. We're also supported with the budget through the fire commissioners for recruitment and retention. we use that money to buy t-shirts, hats, all that kind of stuff. To get once you get here to keep you here. I always tell everybody when I interview them, I interviewed a guy today. So if we get him a clean check through background check and all that other stuff, we'll be up to 68 active firefighters in the fire company. And my word has always been, I'll give you, but the only thing I want back from you is your body. So I will give t-shirts, hats, everything. Every member, unless you're a life member, must report to one duty crew a week. They're from 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. daily, except for Saturday. So our firehouse is usually staffed anywhere from a Monday night might have 9 guys or 9 firefighters on duty crew, where Thursday night is a meeting night and it's my duty crew. And we could have anywhere from 16 to 20 guys on duty crew manning 3 engines in the ladder and chief's driver for me. We are very busy and we don't have any cliques in the fire company. We have one big family. That's how we like it. That's how we keep it. There are people that, run astray and want to start their own cliques, and we kind of put a stop to that. One of our biggest things is to keep everybody involved. We do a lot of family functions. Friday nights, the people that aren't on duty crew might come down with their wives and their kids, and we got pool table and air hockey, and we have a big hall, so that's not rented. There's a couple scooters downstairs that the kids ride around on in the hall while the parents are upstairs, maybe watching a movie or playing pool. The biggest thing is once we get them in the door, we have to keep them. So I think by us doing a lot of the family things and allowing people to come here with their family becomes a family. I know other fire companies around us, you're not allowed to wash your car, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. With the Rutgers students, we have 11 of them. I have 4 of them that are graduating and moving on. I've had them for 4 solid years. I sent them through Fire 1, Fire 2. They've become some of my top responders, but they are moving on. They're graduating them back home to Connecticut, Massachusetts, back down to the Jersey Shore. But I think for us is we have an open door policy and everybody's friendly, and we try to make it when you come in, you feel like you're going to be at home, and then you make it your home. With the Rutgers students, we've pushed washer and dryer in the firehouse, free washer and dryer, free soda, free popcorn, snacks. So when the Rutgers students are here doing their homework, instead of being at the library, their laundry is getting done by them, and they can print and use our paper and our computers. And they're in the firehouse for 4 or 5 hours instead of at a library on campus, not only doing their homework, waiting for a fire call to come in, they're doing their laundry, and they're around the firehouse. I think, when we had the line of duty death with Kevin in 2006, Kevin was a Rutgers student and was one of the first ones to start the midnight duty crew. And we would have the Rutgers students flop on air mattresses and bring cots just to stay in the firehouse, because if they were at their dorms and we had a call, they may or may not make a rig to get out the door. So what they did is they stayed here, so they were guaranteed to be on a fire truck when the tones went off at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. And the rigs got out the door pretty quick. And we still have that to this day, that we have a midnight duty crew. It's usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we could have anywhere between 7 to 9 people, floating around the firehouse on one of those nights or both of those nights waiting for a call. We have pretty good response time. We do not have a lot of people that live in the fire district because we opened the door to the people who live outside the district and the town over and a town away and stuff like that. With the way we run our duty crews, and you being in the firehouse 4.5 hours a night, some guys do 2 to 3 duty crews a week because they want to be involved. Each junior officer has their own duty crew. So the captain runs Monday night, the captain runs Tuesday night, the lieutenant has Wednesday night, Thursday night. When I'm on duty crew, I have a lieutenant who runs my duty crew. Friday night is a deputy chief, and then Sunday night's a lieutenant. So pretty much you get your own kickball team per se, you got your own guys. And you know, the way we do it back in the old day is if a new tool came in, everybody knows new tool came in, well, it sat in the box, the chief put it on the truck, and the 4 guys that were in the firehouse knew how to use the new tool, whether it was a fan, a saw, rabbit tool, whatever. What we do is we will take something that's new, we put it what we call on the watch commander's desk. Right when you walk in the door, there's a desk with the radios, and whatever that tool is will be on the watch commander's desk, and the captain will run a training sheet on that tool. So by the time you start on Sunday night with your training on your duty crew, everybody by Friday night knows exactly how to use that tool, where the tool's going to be, and what rig it's going to be on. And then that's when we put it on the truck. So when you say to somebody, go get the new battery operated K12 saw, they're not opening up every compartment on the truck looking for a battery operated K12 saw. Because if they came to their duty crew like they're supposed to, they have trained on it, they know how to use it, they know how to change the battery, and they also know where it is, and they're trained on it and ready to go. So
Excellent. So, and full disclosure, that's how Dan and I met. We'll just stop right there. So we John Alston, you're done. You made it.
Hey, Nick, how are you?
Very, very good.
Glad for the invite. How are you, Dan? Good to see you again.
hello, sir. How are you?
Hanging in there.
So, just as a remember, we're going to have a fully career combination, all volunteer, and then we're going to talk about obviously trying to pack all those different types of organizations with a wide assortment of folks. So what I want to do is, Shelly, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the efforts you made on the girls camp, and make sure, I want everybody to understand what that's all about.
Absolutely. Let me just turn down my phone. So I created a program called Girls Future Firefighter Camp back in 2015. It was an opportunity for me to teach young ladies about careers in public safety, police, fire, EMS, and emergency management. Literally started out with myself and my husband, and a woman reached out to me and said, I have all these girls for the next few weeks and I don't know what to do with them. Would you be interested in teaching them something about fire? And I was like, absolutely. But before that, I had an idea, and it was like, how am I going to, I'm leaving, I had about 15 years in, and I'm thinking in 5 years, I could possibly leave this place. And what impact have I made on inviting young women into the fire service? So I joined the fire service in 1999. I was 29 years old, and I had no knowledge of the fire service. I had no knowledge of what firefighters did. I literally, and I often say, tripped and fell into the fire department. I was pushing my son down the street in a stroller, and one of the guys on the ramp said, hey, they're looking for women. Would you be interested? And that's literally how I found out about the fire service. When I joined the fire service, though, and passed the test and went through the process, I always found myself kind of behind the 8 ball, because I didn't have the knowledge that that my counterparts had, because their families were in the department or they knew friends in the department. So I was always trying to seek information and knowledge and learn to master my craft. And that was really the only reason. Here we are 15 years later, I have this knowledge. I might have been a lieutenant at the time, or a paid driver at least. And I was like, I don't want anyone to ever feel that way coming into the fire department, like any females. So I created this program And I start with the young ladies that are ages 13. And, you know, if someone had told me at age 13 half of the information that I needed to be successful in my career, then I would have been a fire chief a long time ago. But it took me a little longer. And so what I find in communicating with women, especially women, because that is my platform and my audience, is that women don't really understand the dynamics of what is expected of them in the fire department. Not all women. I'm not saying that's not every woman, but the women that I seek out, or the women that I have conversations with, for the most part, that are not firefighters, they're like, oh my God, you're a girl and you're a girly girl, and now you're a fire chief, or now you're a captain, or whatever. And so my job as I would say, a leader in the fire department is to give them all the knowledge I can give them up front before they take a test. You know, do you know that you can actually be a firefighter?
Right.
And so with the girls camp, every summer we have 3 to 4 camps. We take them from, this is a Halligan, this is hose line, this is what a ladder truck is and what it does. This is what an engine truck do and what this is what a rescue looks like. And then we put the gear on them and they get to operate in that capacity, so they have a clear understanding. And so far, it has been phenomenal. We have young ladies that are cadets. We have young ladies that are in the departments now that didn't know anything about fire service. We have dispatch, a woman that went into dispatch, because we teach them from the inception of the call to the emergency management to the disaster. We have some folks that are going into fire science at University of New Haven, and all these different components, simply because they walked into the door and I was able, and my team, who was phenomenal, the women and a few men that teach Girls Future Firefighter Camp, really understand that we're not teaching firefighters. We're teaching them the basic fundamentals of what you need to know walking in the door. So by the time they get to the recruit school or introduction to the fire service, they're not blind, they're not lost. So that's why the program was created.
One of the things that I've been stunned about is, in our little town of Gales Ferry, something happened. Either the right kid's parent told him to, or was a member of the fire department, and said, "Hey, you wanna come down here with me," or whatever it is. We have a robust, and I'm not kidding. Every month, there's at least 2, if not 3 kids that are 8th, 9th graders that are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing when we do company training, half the room, more than half the room, is under 18. Now that's the good news and the bad news, because we're trying to plant those seeds, and it's the other cool thing is, we're, our community is not the most diverse community in the state of Connecticut,
Mm-hmm.
but the group is diverse. We got boys, girls, all different nationalities, some military kids, some non-military kids. We got just a wide berth, and it's fun for an old fart. It really is exciting, because some of these kids, and we had a very good friend of ours, a very good friend of ours, Jeff Post, passed away, and we sent folks to help out with the honor guard, and this 16-year-old kid went to the uniform guy, our internal guy got a uniform, and he actually stood honor guard at 16 years old, and I was beyond touched, because he's already buying in, as Danny said, he's buying into the family side. So let me continue on. So good news is Steve Hoffman has escaped his meeting, and he is on the road. But what I want to do is, so Chief Alston. Well, I got to make sure I might just start using first names, because if I just say Chief, everybody's going to answer me. So let's talk about, fully career department. Let's talk about some of the rules that we probably all face in different levels, but as a full career department, there's some stuff that or what works for you for recruitment, and what is not open to you or doesn't work? What's your best recruitment tool?
Actually social media. And thanks, Nick. Steve Hoffman, I see you had I had time to change my shirt, Chief, and you didn't. Don't you hate those last minute meetings?
The last minute meeting got me.
I literally, when Nick was texting, I was pulling my shirt and tie off in the car. So I get it, brother. I get it. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so when it comes to recruiting, when I first came to the city of New Haven, one of the things I was charged with was to make sure that not only we had people who were properly trained, properly outfitted, part of a team and have an assignment, but that we were getting the best possible firefighters, but also an emphasis on hiring members from the community and people of color and women who have not had that advantage. I think Shelly Carter said it best, that if you've never been exposed to that, if you never had a family member or a neighbor or someone who would say, hey, have you ever thought about being a firefighter? Why don't you try this? So I worked with Dr. Dennis O'Neill, many of you know who was the superintendent of the National Fire Academy. But what folks don't realize is that Dennis has been a mentor and friend of mine for about 40 years. He was my captain back in 1985, and he was charged with recruitment in the city of Jersey City, where I did 31 years. And we had come up with this process of not just looking at how the applications went out, but how they were denied. What were the barriers? What were the rejection codes? We were the first ones to ask and we have a statewide test, so it wasn't just a municipality testing. What were the rejection codes? Because the rejection codes will tell you what the barriers are. Things you would never believe. There was a symbol code, and Dan, you're in Jersey. You know that my son's a lieutenant in Plainfield. There's a testing process in New Jersey where the state does all the testing. So if they do a statewide test, every city gets its own symbol code so that you could differentiate what the criteria was, job descriptions, because everyone's in authority having jurisdiction. We found out that people, if they didn't fill out the symbol code, their application was rejected. If they put in the wrong code for the wrong city, it was rejected. And so there was no orientation process. People would open up, hey, I want to be a firefighter. They would take the first symbol code. There's Atlantic City. Like, okay, good. I'd put it on there. Or I live near Bayonne. Or I live in Bayonne. I should put that symbol code down. But you were really taking the test for Jersey City. It got rejected. And so we did orientation. And we actually took the top portion of the application that was exactly like the state application and said, hey, if you're testing in this city, this is your symbol code. We eliminated the rejection codes almost 40% just by doing that. And so when we think about that, and that was 30 some odd years ago, when you think about that, what is the difference when you go to recruit now? Making sure that people are oriented. Well, nobody's going to be walking around passing out paper applications. That's gone the way of the dodo bird, and it should have. Most folks live on their little portable devices that they carry around. And so YouTube, TikTok, QR codes, MailChimp, which is another way of gathering names. When I first got here, we put our list on the city's website, and I'll paste that link real quick. What we did was we put that link on, and it doesn't look like that. Obviously, it's a QR code, and I want anyone tonight to click on that as well. That put people into our database. And the reason why I'm doing that is we had meetings all this week. New Haven's about to hire. We've got laterals right now. Anybody that's a paramedic right now, nationally registered, you can go on right now and go through our process. We've got about 5 folks that are going to come out in the next 2 weeks. But our big hiring of those folks who have never experienced the fire service before, that do not have fire 1 and 2, or do not have EMT, because EMT in certain communities is a barrier as well, depending on how you can get the test and the class, the National Registry and test, whether you can afford that or not. So looking at eliminating those barriers, we're about to do our biggest hiring right now. I have 56 vacancies in the city of New Haven. We're going to be launching that application probably within the next week or so. And so if you click on that link, what I was doing is actually getting folks to apply in New Haven. Do you have to attend the academy if you already have 1 and 2? Yes, you do. Good question. I'll answer the questions at the end because I don't want to tie this up too much, Nick. Really what I want to get to is you have to meet people where they are. And I always liken it to when I had the conversation when I first got to Connecticut. One of the first things the career chief said, we had this big powwow, and they said, you know what? How do you know if somebody's interested in the job, and how do you get to recruit them? And my question to them was, how do you know they're not interested in the job? How many conversations have you had with people? So I recruit 365 days a year. It doesn't matter if I'm at Walmart, a restaurant. I've recruited folks out of Best Buy who are now lieutenants and inspectors in the city of New Haven, because I already know if they're working in places like that, they've already been screened. Their applications have already been cleared. It's easy to find them, so we can do our background checks. So recruiting with that, just that QR code, just that link that you see in the chat window, we have 3,900 people in that database. When those applications are available this weekend, or at least by Monday, I hope, we're going to hit a button. There are 2 sets of applications, one for residents, one for non-residents, because in the city charter, there are 10 points for residents and 10 points for veterans, which they had never applied, believe it or not, in the city of New Haven before. They never applied it to the entry. Yeah. And so in the last 7 years, we've been able to put that application in, and we've seen changes in the folks that are coming into the fire service in the city of New Haven. We also have a list for folks who are non-residents. Believe it or not, the non-resident list fills up 15 hours after we hit the button. There are still folks who have completed careers elsewhere, not just in the state of Connecticut. We had folks from Denver, Massachusetts, Baltimore, who are applying. So in terms of recruitment, you have to cast a wider net.
Chief, is there a cap? Is there a cap for the outer towns?
Yeah, currently there's a cap for both internal and external, resident and non-resident, 250. Because the other problem that we had, and that's why it fills up so fast, when I first got here was 1,000.
That's the number of applicants or the number of jobs you're going to hire?
No, that's the number of applicants. And Nick,
I can remember being next to one of the schools, and it was thousands.
Yeah. So so you touched on a great point. The city pays a third-party consultant to do the testing. So think about that. If I had 33 vacancies, why am I testing 3,000 people? That's just, it's a logistical nightmare. It's an economic nightmare. And you want to get the folks that you can best get within a manageable system. So we capped it at 1,000 when I first got here. The last time we capped it at 500 and 500, and we still had a large list we never got to everyone. So now it's 250 from the outside, 250 from the inside.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a manageable number, and that's getting them with CPAT and all that. So if anyone is on tonight, including Steve Hoffman, if you're done with all those meetings and you want to get back to that firehouse kitchen, man, at the very least, first line supervisor. I see Nicole Dundee is on as well. Come on, we're hiring.
Mark Benjamin's another great candidate.
Yeah, I'll take questions after that. I don't want to tie up that much time. One, we are hiring. We are looking for laterals, and laterals, you can come into the academy, and once you're vetted and get medical control, you'll start at $65,000. In 2 years, you'll be at $85,000.
That's for the medics, right?
That's for the medics. And if you come through our other process where you don't have fire 1 and 2, then it will take you probably about 20 weeks to get to $65,000, and then 2 years to get to $85,000. So it's a good job. And the other thing is our medics work fires. That's the other thing. They go to fires. They're firefighter medics.
Billy Seward, when Billy was working with Mike Grant at the academy, on all second alarms, the academy went, and the training guys went, and but he had already I think he had already made a save. as a medic.
Yeah. So what happens on a second alarm? We get the entire school, and we pull 2 of our emergency units. So that gives me 2 additional companies plus a minimum of 3 paramedics on the scene. So,
Right. Listen, so we're going to go away from having to turn away people with the 250 gap. We're going to go to Steve Hoffman from the honorable city of Colchester, combination system. So, Steve, what's your challenge for bringing in new folks?
So I can honestly say, to sum it up in one word, when I first came here, was culture. Combination department, you got apples and oranges, right? You got 2 groups that really have separate wants and needs, and you're trying to find ways to get those 2 groups to come together and provide that service, work together, even off the fire ground. So culture was a big thing, and how to develop that culture. How do I make these groups really work together and come to the realization that we're all here for the same reason, regardless of whether you're getting paid or you're doing it from a volunteer perspective. And it took a lot. I can honestly say in the last 2 years I've been here, it's been a 180. It took a lot of work, and it was a lot of work on a lot of people's behalf, not just on mine. It was a real department effort, and a lot of people played a part in that. But being appreciative of people, allowing them to have input in the organization. The other big is work-life balance. As many of you are aware, OSHA's kind of shooting down the 1910-156 with some changes there, which could put on some stressors for volunteers. So we really revamped our training requirements and our expectations to really take that work-life balance into consideration, and fair, equal expectations. There were unequal expectations for a time, and we really wanted to make sure that regardless of whether you're paid, you're volunteer, the training is going to be the same. The expectations are going to be the same, because fire, cutting somebody out of a car, riding the ambulance and transporting, it's all the same. Doesn't matter whether you're getting a paycheck or not. And obviously there are some considerations in there. Can it be 100% that way? No. There are some gray areas on both sides that we have to work through. But you really want to make the environment attractive. You want to make people be here. We're living with a generation that is really technologically enhanced, that they really want to get sucked into phones and iPads and all those things. So the individuals that are coming off the road, coming off the streets, it's hard to get them to become assimilated into that group, right? They don't know anybody. So another thing we did with the training is we did training companies where one officer for span of control oversees 5 to 7. And we assigned somebody, that company officer, to really take on that mentorship role, to really get that person engaged in the group and in the department, and be that person to reach out to. These are the events that are going on. From a volunteer perspective, the volunteer fire company does a lot of social organization things, picnics, parties, selling Christmas trees, all those types of things. And the fire part, the service part is important, but that aspect, the social aspect, is just as important too. And in that comes, they include the career firefighters in that as well. Like, they have the opportunity to come to the banquets. They have the opportunity to come to those picnics. So really immersing everybody, feeling connected, allowing them to have that input is huge. I'll tell you, from my perspective, monetary incentives don't recruit really anybody. If anything, it's probably more of a retention tool than anything. Right. You got departments that are paying pretty hefty per call, and people aren't banging down their doors to come volunteer for that, right? So it's really we've already got them. We want to get them motivated, want to get them to become a part of the organization, feel like they're a part of that organization, and really get them involved, keep them engaged. That's another part. People are easily unengaged. If you don't keep them engaged, they're gone. And we found that through our probationary process, which is a process of, you fill out the application, you come in and meet with the committee. We verify that, you are eligible and your background checks come back and all that. And that process prior was, we got the application. We didn't talk to that person for a month. And then after that, we met with them, and then we sent them for a physical. Then we didn't talk to them for another month.
Yeah,
we lost them. In this day and age, you're losing them.
When I was first chief, it would take 6 months. It would get for someone to get into the company and get to me to get gear was months and months and months and months. And it was, so we finally said, no, we can't do this. And that was at the city council's request. We met with the public safety. And I said, listen, I can take this many months off of this. And we just take the companies and tell them no. You're not going to have 3 readings. You're not going to have all that stuff. You got to move. You got to move, and you got to move now. Go ahead.
To Chief Alston's point, like we've digitized a lot of things and we've constantly had those touch points. You send an application, you get a thanks for your application, someone will be in contact with you, blah, blah. We get that back. We automatically sign them on to Vector Solutions and they already start training. They already start looking at our policies and procedures. We already get them engaged with what's going on in our organization, even though they can't go to calls.
Are they in yet?
No, they're not.
See, that's
no.
We do a somewhat thing. We have a program we wrote 30 years ago called Fundamental Training Program. We had a kid the other night. Kid comes in, he has his interview again, another sophomore. He comes in, he has his interview, and the interview is at 6 o'clock at night. Our FTP for that night started at 7. The assistant chief says, "Go sit in on the training. You're going to be fine." And the kid jumped in before we weren't doing anything hands-on. It was all PowerPoint, Flashpoint stuff. But so you want me in now? You want me to come tonight? Yeah, you can come tonight if you want to. You don't have to, but you can come if you want to. That goes a long way.
And we do that too.
I think that when Billy or Cindy walk in the door of the firehouse, they have it in their mind they want to be a firefighter. And if you push them away and tell them, well, here's a phone number, call this guy, he's in charge of membership, and then that guy doesn't call you, and then the kid, you know what, he ends up going someplace else or not joining. You walk into this firehouse, within 48 hours, you're getting interviewed. It's that simple.
And that's what you want. You want to keep them engaged. You need to keep them engaged because if you don't keep them engaged, the phone or the iPad is going to keep them engaged, and you've lost
them somewhere. They'll get involved into something else.
Yeah.
No, right. and Dan, you're spot on. When they end up getting on our list, and I see that they've checked out our videos, so I use analytics. If I see they've gone on our videos, they spend more than 5 minutes on our website. I have a segment and I track them, and I'll literally text them saying, "Hey, I'm glad you're interested. I'm glad did you enjoy that video?" And they call like, "Who is this?" And when they call and they say, "Chief," I go, "Yeah, you were watching the video. Can I answer any of your questions?" I've gotten calls from Alders said, "I didn't realize that you answered your phone all the time." I said, "Well, it's 30 of you. I answer your phone when you call me. I'm up anyway." That young person is locked in. They're absolutely locked in. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, they're actually going to look up what CPAT means.
And another point where we're trying to get involved in too is we have a strong cadet program. I have really good advisors that keep the cadets engaged. We have them come to our regular drills and get engaged with our regular members. The state is working on developing those classes for high school kids to really tap into that resource to get them engaged in the fire service and EMS service for that matter. So we're even trying to instill for them to come here. And there are a lot of restricting factors, and we understand they're kids. We want to make sure they're safe. We're not putting them in any type of danger or anything, but we want to get them engaged. They want to do stuff, and there's stuff they can do to keep them engaged. You take them out just to stretch lines in a parking lot, they love that.
I'll give you. Go ahead, Dan.
I think, and one of the things that we do, right? So I think the way we're able to suck these kids in is, I remember when I was 18 or 17, waiting for my 18th birthday, I couldn't wait to be 18 to ride that fire truck. So when that kid comes in the door and he's 18 years old, after we interview him and he gets his physical, he gets his t-shirts, his baseball hats, and his Dickies. Because I tell them all, if you look the part, you act the part, you feel the part, you will come back. And that's what it does.
100%.
These guys think it's so cool to go to Stop and Shop to pick up a thing of butter with the rig, with the radio strap on and their stuff, because they think they're it. And they are it. And that's how we bring them up. We bring them up.
I'll tell you what.
They're not blocking the front entrance, are they?
No. They're busy. We're too busy to park. They got
where have I heard that before?
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to just really say something real quick. And I'm speaking for like I said, the female audience out there that think that they can't do the job, or that they don't understand the process of getting onto the department and things like that. A lot of things that we work on at the girls' camp is we have a group text. So anytime we usually have about 25 girls throughout each of our camps. And And of those 25 girls, I almost forced them to have a group chat or a group text amongst themselves. I was just with a bunch of the girls the other day, and I said something about the camp that was happening at the end of the summer, and they simply like instantly got onto the group text and was texting all the girls from before, like, "Hey, guess what? There's another camp that's coming up. It's gonna be an EMS camp, blah blah blah." So the communication between them,
Yep.
I noticed that a lot of times young ladies, and I don't know about the guys, but young ladies travel in packs. And if I get one and I say, "Hey,
Right.
your girlfriend, your friends can come," they're going to bring 2, 3, 4 others.
Yep.
And just to be around people that they are comfortable being around. By the time they get to the camp, of course, we, like the instructors, will separate everybody that knows the person they came with. But then they began to have friends with all these other ladies. Now, when they go into the departments or go into the next step up, which is the introduction to the fire service, they're going in with another young lady, or they're going to another camp with another young lady, so that they don't feel like they're by themselves. And so it's huge for I know for the girls, that if they have the opportunity to go with others, then they learn together, they communicate together, they talk about it on their phones after the camp. It's wonderful experience for them.
And
To
that's
add
what,
on to that, that's why when people come in, I made it a point, especially with these guys, to make sure that they engage those new members, introduce themselves, introduce them to other members, start showing them around the firehouse, start getting them involved. Because if they're the wallflower in the corner and no one's talking to them and they feel like the outsider, you lost them and they're gone.
We have
go ahead.
for the first time in the female fire service, we have 6 females in my company, and they're all going to 6 are there. 5 are going to the National Fire Academy, which I think is something off this hook for female fire service weekend.
Yeah.
It's in June.
Yeah,
and
we're
we got
sending
them
some
all
as well.
signed up, and they're going. And the other one wanted to go, but she's also a lacrosse player, and she can't go because she's a Rutgers student and got to go to lacrosse. But
You
for
know,
us,
yeah,
I tried
that's like
to
a big
teach.
hit.
that's great.
I tried to teach one. I put in to teach the community risk reduction portion of that. Unfortunately, I didn't get that. I wanted to do that badly.
I was
Yeah,
at the
it's like-
National Fire
Females in the
Academy.
Fire service. I mean, I've told everybody that's here, they need to go there at least once. If you can go more than once, it's even better,
Oh, yeah.
but you got to go once.
You got
Dan,
it.
I want to, please, I'm sorry, Shelly, please go ahead.
No problem, John. What I was saying was I was at the National Fire Academy last year for the Women in the Fire Service weekend. And as I was walking across the yard or going to a class, I heard someone calling out Captain Carter. Now, I had left Hartford. When I left Hartford, I was a captain. Turned around, it was a young lady that had gone through my girls' camp. And she basically said, "Because of you, I am
Isn't that
a
wonderful? There's
firefighter."
nothing.
And she was at the National Fire Academy.
There's
And that's
nothing.
information
There's
that I
nothing
shared
like
with
that.
her at the camp. "Hey, there's this National Fire Academy. You should go." I didn't learn about the National Fire Academy in the Hartford Fire Department until I was probably 10 years in. So I'm just saying, all the knowledge
You're
that
not
you
the
give,
only one.
right, you give
Some of
early
the
on in
bigger,
their careers, or early on in the camps, or early on in the cadet programs. That information sticks with these young people, and it makes them a little more curious about what else is there. And so we have to give that knowledge early on, so they can continue to be curious and look for other ways to learn in the fire service.
all right, John.
So Nick, you found out about box 16 on the application for the National Fire Academy, right? How many years did it take you to figure that out? And Dan, congratulations, sending that number of women there. I was fortunate. Nick and I were out at FDIC last week teaching and training, but I was fortunate to teach for women in fire. And so I want to say to the chiefs that are on here, you can register your department with 10 names for like $100 in women in fire. And so what we did in New Haven was I paid for that and invited any women that were in the New Haven Fire Department if you want to be part of that. Because at the very least, you've got connections, you've got networking, you've got your email and your contacts in their database. And that's how you find out about the National Fire Academy having that for women. Also, September 10th to the 14th, Women in Fire are having their international conference in San Diego. And so it is vital that when you have women that, like Dan said, that you're proud to send them to the National Fire Academy, make sure that they are tied and connected to other women's organizations, because that's going to be able to sustain them. Because as I look on that screen, Nick, Dan, Steve, and John, in the next 10 years, we're going to be doing something else. I hope,
I'm going to be taking
I
a
hope
short
not.
nap.
I hope not, but we will. And so we have to make sure that we build those bridges and sink those seeds and roots for them, so that they and making sure that we make those connections with them and for them.
So John, Danny was out there with us too, out to Indianapolis as well.
Well, yeah, that's why I said it was good seeing them again, and I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah. I think they take me in Jersey whenever Vescuso's in the room, and then
You
they
can
kick me
translate.
out. Yeah, and then they kick me out later. It's okay.
Hey, listen, I want to do I want to do a commercial before I forget, because I will forget. That's how my head works right now. So Steve talked about 1910 156. Okay. We're not going to do a lot about it because more shows are coming. But for those that don't know, 1910 150 OSHA 29 CFR 1910 156 has been proposed to be revised first time since 1980. It is dynamic. It is across the board. There are some things. There are 22 NFPA standards that will become part of it on whole. There's another 13 parts of the standards have been taken from the standard and put into the writing of 156. More to follow on that. That's topic number one. Topic number two, and the commercial part is right now, the NFPA is in a process of taking similar standards and packaging them together. So 1001, 1002, 1003, 1005 are now going to be called 1010. That one's well on its way. We're going to have Kurt Floyd from the NFPA. He's going to come on, and because he's been intimately involved in both processes, he's not really at liberty to talk about the 156 process because there's some stuff going on there. But he's going to be coming on to talk about the NFPA process, and we're struggling but working hard to get someone from our state's OSHA, Con OSHA, to come onto this show. Again, another advertisement. The first Wednesday in June. 9:00 in the morning, Connecticut Fire Instructors Association at Jalen Associates, and we're struggling, and we're driving to try to have a representative from Kenosha to be there. That night, New London County Fire Chief Kurt Floyd will be there to talk about NFPA. Okay.
We probably have somebody, Chief.
Huh?
We probably have somebody. I reached out to Chip Darius, and we have a chief that's probably going to come and do it. So.
Okay. Very, very good. Chip's. I won't go into that whole story, but
You
Chip,
said you were doing a
Chip-
commercial. I thought you were doing a food commercial or a fire truck commercial.
I did, dude. I did 5 days of that. I'm good.
Dan, it was both. It was both.
It's both.
No, we save all of our comments to the end, but that's fine. All right. So I think what we all struggle to do is get him in the front door. You know, the old saying was you got to get him before girls. When it was an all boys club, they'd say that you had to get him in before girls in football, right? Before they came up with some other passion. I like the immediate turnaround idea. And for those that don't know, Chief Alston is a numbers analytical guy. So that doesn't surprise me at all that looking at that whole who's making what, who's moving where, right? We don't capitalize on that. Listen, you can't go look at something on your phone the next 3 weeks. All you're doing is getting ads, right? For that stuff. It's all that analytics. It's all that stuff.
And the thing is, if you can't manage things unless you measure them. So
right.
You have to be able to measure them. And so once we get them into the net, and I consider it a net, I liken it to fishing. How many folks like to fish? Well, then you need to know where the fish are and what you're going after. Are you going after freshwater, saltwater, lure, hook, sinker, whatever it is? That's the analogy. You cast the wide net, but as you find those that are really interested, you need to talk to them. You need to engage them. And fortunately, the folks that we've been pulling into New Haven, they're engaged. I'm happy, even though Steve Hoffman and other folks try to poach them. Yeah, I know. Try to grab them.
Well,
I
we had a problem in the past where guys would go into the academy in one shirt, one uniform shirt, and they'd come out in another. And we tried to, through it as a gentleman's agreement, chief's agreement, to say, knock that shit off. You go find your own people, right?
From a combination perspective, looking at the career side, it's also difficult for recruitment and retention in that regard, because in your smaller combination departments, usually there's not a lot of growth. So they look to those big city departments because they want to be officers. They want to get higher, right? So recently, I just put on 2 additional career lieutenants and a career captain to provide for that promotional opportunity. Because we were losing guys, to the Chief Alston's point. I was losing them to New London. They come here, they'd be a career person, career firefighter for a time, and then they'd either go to East Hartford or they'd go to New London.
So when Chief Clapsaddle retired from the submarine base last month, I was stunned at the number of people who had worked at the base, because it was you went to the sound lab, to the base, and then from there you might go to Norwich, or you might go to New London, you might come to the city or whatever. But it was a springboard. Very few people stayed there. Danny, you were about to say something. I cut you off.
I think, one of the things that we have that really benefits us, and it doesn't happen with a lot of departments. We have a very, very good working relationship with the City of New Brunswick Fire Department and the fire director. So Engine 5 is on the Rutgers campus. So when the kids walk up to Engine 5 and say, hey, I want to be a fireman, and those guys tell them, well, we're career, but here's the phone number, and the East Franklin Firehouse is up the street, make a left and a left. And we get a lot of people that way. I mean, that's where we get our Rutgers students, other than the fact that if you're a Rutgers student and you type in closest firehouse, no matter where you're at on the Rutgers campus, it shows East Franklin, whether you're in Piscataway, Highland Park, New Brunswick, or the North Brunswick campus. The way our tech people have it set up is
how'd that happen?
Can't imagine.
Dan, you still have that? Do you still have that same director in New Brunswick? He's fired. He's
Director
fired.
Paul, that's your buddy, right?
Yeah, when you see him, tell him he's fired.
Every year he tells me he's going to Indy, and every year I go without him. So, yeah, but he's, Director Rawls is good people for us, because if people call there during the day and he answers the phone, he gives out our number.
Let me tell you, I learned a whole lot from him. He's been a mentor of mine for about 30 years. Incredible individual. Yeah. One
of the good things that I could say sitting here as the chief for the last 24 years is that I've got 37 or 38 people that joined this department and have left to be career firefighters in big cities. And I mean the city of New Brunswick, Washington, D.C., Fairfax, Virginia, all over the place. And they started here. And they started here as Rutgers students and stayed there 4 years or 5 years, did grad school, stayed another year. And, they made it big. One of the guys who's a deputy chief now in the city of New Brunswick started his volunteer career here. And to us, that's cool.
We have a company, Mystic. In fact, past chief is in the audience. Tony, what's the number? I think the number is 20 some people have come out of that company. A bunch of guys went to New York, New Britain, New London, just all over the place. But there's a significant that went to the big city. You know what I mean? And from that, what's the biggest? This is going to come out wrong, and I don't mean it as an insult at all. I'm going to put it this way: what's your biggest learning lesson as to something that you thought was a no-brainer and a home run, and it just got wobbly? It didn't provide or didn't do what you thought it was going to do.
I can say probably I'm sorry, the the belonging aspect of females in the fire service here in 2020, the 2020 years, 21, 2, 3, and 4. For the most part, I would say at 80% of the fire service, understand that women have been here since the early 70s. And for the most part, most firefighters are very extremely warm and welcoming and happy to teach, and happy to work closely with women. I think for the other 20%, it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle for women to be seen and heard. And so, or we are constantly having to prove that we know our job and that we are capable of doing our job. And, just I want to say yesterday, someone told me that there was a fire officer in the department that said the problem with the fire service is that women joined the fire service. And that person is an officer in a large department. And so in a large room, it was a comment, you know what I'm saying? With a room full of men, and not one person
Nobody
said
piped up.
anything. And so 20%, give or take. Maybe John can work on some analytics about that. But for the most part, the fire service is welcoming.
It's
But
called the Peretti principle. It's every organization.
that's my point.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. And so not that we can't do our jobs or anything like that. And so my goal with the girls camp, because we don't just train little girls, we also train women, women that are interested in the department and women that are on the department to say, hey, this is what you can expect walking into the door. Because I don't want to send women into the fire service knowing that there's going to be that one person or those 10 people that's going to say, we really just don't want you here. And it could be the firefighter to the officer to the chief of the department. And
So let's talk. So you have you shared a story with one of our officer classes that we were doing together, and it was like, I think your first day in the firehouse where the officers pushed you off to somebody else and said, she's your problem.
Right.
I don't want to have to deal with this.
Right.
No, that wasn't last week.
No, that was years ago. But again, just yesterday, the conversation in a room full of men, officers and firefighters, that the problem with the fire service is there are women in the fire service. And so there's still that small component of folks that really wish that we weren't here. Unfortunately, too bad for them. That's their issue. That's a them issue, not a my issue. But the whole idea is just to make sure that as fire chiefs, we create an environment where not just women, anyone would be more than happy. Like the chief from East Franklin basically said, it's an open door. Like we want families. We want, I'm a mom. I got 5 boys. I want my sons to be able to walk into a firehouse if they choose to, and hang out or whatever they want to do. But we have to seek out the bad seeds in our departments and hold them accountable for comments that are made that way. Or if someone is there that, if there's a female that's in that space and she's alone, because most departments have 1 or maybe 2 in the smaller departments, she needs allies, or folks need allies to make sure that
she needs an older brother. She needs a big brother.
Not to do her job, but
no.
To stand up to the other person to say, yo, that's stupid. And, because we can fight as females, we fight all the time. You know what I'm saying? But to have someone to back you in that fight would be a really nice thing to have. So we can just go to work, do our jobs, and go home safely to our
Shelly, I got something that'll make you laugh. So
okay.
we have a 5-person bunk room. So when we started having the female students sleep over, we made arrangements in the meeting room and put chains on the inside of the door, because this is one of the rooms that doesn't have cameras. And we bought blow-up mattresses, and we took them my wife and I took them shopping, and we got them the best of everything, blankets. And then one night, one of the girls comes to me and she goes, we want to know how we get the bunk room. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, why don't the men sleep in the meeting room and we'll sleep in the bunk room? I was like, I don't know. We never had that. But you know what I mean? We didn't have that. And they're like, well, I think it should be first come, first served basis. I'm like, okay. So they're like, so we're gonna come at 8 o'clock tomorrow night and we're not leaving. And they could all sleep with the pink blankets and the pink pillowcases in the meeting room, and we're sleeping in the bunk room. I was like,
No,
I mean, you got to do that to me. And, we worked it out where
yes.
it ended up working out, but their thought was like yours. They're going full steam ahead. They don't care and nothing's going to stop them. And, two of those girls are still here to this day. Some of them were Rutgers students and they graduated and they moved on, but two of them, one of them actually is a police officer.
Right.
And she's not going anywhere. Her father's got 35, well, as many years as me, 40 years in the fire department. And she's not going anywhere.
Right.
And, we like that. And I use her as one of my mentors. She is my go-to person. When the females come in, she's assigned as their mentors because she's lived it. She's been through it. And, this isn't Chicago Fire, right? So my officers don't date any of the female firefighters. And I had a deputy chief who was dating one of the female firefighters on the side. And I found out and I gave him two options. You can turn in your car or you could break it off with her. And he took the lighter version and he stayed with her, resigned as deputy chief. And 3 days later, she broke up with him and it left him outside, not as a deputy chief anymore. And it's like, oh, well,
Wow, Dan. That's baller, man.
It's what it is.
You didn't get a lot. See, you can do that in Jersey. You can't do that in Connecticut. You can't do that in Connecticut, man. I had a non-fraternization policy back in the day. You can't bring that here.
Yep.
Well, I ended up marrying a firefighter, but that's a whole nother story for that's a whole nother topic for a different.
We'll talk about love and relationships. That's a different show.
Yeah.
Let me tell you one of the biggest mistakes I made is we were pulling our hair out. From the time I became chief, I slowly people just started leaving, or we hired them, or we got them jobs. So now we're doing this recruitment. So we would do a recruit school. So you'd come in, we shortened up all the getting into the companies. We got all that done. And so we took bits and pieces of the ISTA essentials, and we would just run. And I bought we bought 20 of everything, bought the whole ISTA package, and and this thing left. It was not for them. And we tried to make it we didn't make it hard. We just showed them these are some of the things that you're going to need to know, because eventually you're going to go to this class. And we got 3 or 4 people that stayed over the years, but a lot of people just said, no, not me. And they bailed. So we were trying to figure out this, how do we do this? How do we get them and give them a taste of what's going on? Right? It's kind of backwards from what it is now. Now you show them the stuff, they love it. Right? Back then they didn't want nothing to do it. That might have been the population of the community, a lot of engineers, a lot of high-tech people. Maybe it was too hands-on. I don't know. We just stopped. And once we figured out they were making it, then we would just send them to school, because we just couldn't. It just wasn't working. We were spending a lot of money, and I was doing a lot of hours at night to try to do those classes, the volunteer company officers, the whole thing. All right, John, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for the invite. Good seeing you last week. Everyone be well, and I'll see you soon. And that link is still good. You're interested in working in New Haven? Come on.
Only 250. The 500 people going to go. You aren't going to go against.
It's going to be fast.
Think about it. 95 jobs out of 250, or 95 jobs out of 500. That's pretty good odds.
Good number.
Good odds.
That's good odds.
Christmas.
All right. Thanks, Jim. All right. Anybody else have something that kind of went sideways, didn't really work?
No.
I feel like that's
so. Well,
I can't say it's something that's gone sideways, but in a combination department, one wrong move one little ripple can really turn into a big wave. In some cases, it's a constant tender balance between the the wants and needs of both groups. So, you make one change, the other group said, you're showing favoritism to the volunteers, or you're showing favoritism to the career firefighters. And so it's sometimes everything that especially from my perspective, everything that I do, I have to weigh both sides and, see what negative impacts are going to come from it. And do the negative impacts, outweigh the positive impacts of what I'm trying to achieve by making this change, and that's policies, training, emergency response, especially when, we have career firefighters that are responding, and then we have folks responding from home to staff the other apparatus, or do we have a shift of volunteer staffed at my substation that's responding, so I can't say it's any one bad thing that went hairy, but I can say that there's some times where I've done something and went, oh man, I hope that turns out good. Because after I thought about it, I was like, that, could go either way. And you try to weigh those things because you want the best positive outcome. You want to, you want the best for your folks. You want the best for the service you provide to the community. So it's
even simple things like replacing turnout gear. And so we're going to replace the turnout gear every 4 years or 3 years, whatever you want. Let's say, I think we did it every 4 years, right? And we literally looked at the gear and said, yeah, that dude's next. That gear's got to go. But so we had gear that was being used every day, and then we had gear that wasn't being used at all, or not as much. Yet there needed to be some quid pro quo. There needed to be some equal replacement so that no one got their nose bent out of shape.
I'll be honest, my volunteers, for the most part, like, we replace the gear based on your activity level, or for the most part, right? And they agree with that, right? The folks doing the work that are using the gear on a regular basis, that are going to the fires and going to the car, going on a, higher call volume, right? And I understand impacts. People can put what they can put forward, right? Some can only give so much, but their gear isn't getting hit as much, right? And the costs of gear is going up. So you don't want to replace gear for a person who shows up once a month. Maybe replace the gear for the person who's actually responding, and his gear might be 7 years old, not outside that 10 years. It's not so bad. Maybe that other guy gets that gear instead. Right. And it says, listen, this person's wearing the gear more. He's doing the service more. He's coming around more. So we're giving him the gear, and we're giving you the gear to do the job. Right. It can go either way. The other part is does that guy get mad now because you're not giving him new gear? And he's like, screw it, now I'm not coming around at all.
Right. It's kind of like what I did was the low budget stuff. Though that stuff got given out pretty easy, right? Of course, back then a hood was $15, but as opposed to the hoods now where everything can't come through, and I don't even
particulate.
I don't even want to know how much the particulate hoods are. They're probably what? They're $50, $60, $100?
100 to 120. Yeah.
And
I think
it's so
not more. There probably was more expensive ones out there, but
I give the guys that beat their gear and they're in the top 20 of my calls. That means they're making 300, 400 calls, 500 calls. They're going to keep getting the new gear. And then their gear will go down to the guy whose gear is going to expire in a year, because then they got gear now that's going to be good for another 5 years, and then that gear for a year will go in a closet. And people understand that. If you got a guy who just comes up, and I got guys who just come and drive, their gear looks brand new out of the box because they just drive. They're not expecting me to give them brand new gear, but they also don't want the stuff that somebody wore 1,400 times.
Yeah.
Keep their new gear until it expires, and then I'll give them something that's just as good as with a better date.
But I think the other part to that too is explaining that to them. Like for most, when a person, they get upset because they don't get new gear and they don't know why. They do know why, but they don't know why, right? So we end up having that conversation with them. This is why. And just like the chief said, we explain it to them, and they're like, that makes sense. Right? Because you had that one-on-one, you had that discussion with them, and they understand it. They understand your thought process and why you're doing it. And for the most part, you're like, They might not still agree with it, but they understand it and they get it.
So I'll tell you a funny story that goes along that line. So I started teaching at the Willimantic Fire School, Eastern Connecticut Fire School, and you need gear, right? I am not going in a building. Just let's get ahead of that. I'm not going above, beyond, below, around. I'll be around the building, but I'm not going in. So the guy that's in charge, Pete, who's in charge of the helmets, wanted to give me a new helmet with a shield. I said, no, I don't need a new helmet. I want a helmet. I actually went and found one. I said,
You still
I'll,
have the one with the chin strap or no? That
Yes.
you got to wear it? Yeah.
I'll tell you, I saw a kid almost, he would have got killed if he didn't have his chin strap on, but that's another story. So yeah, you're talking about with the ears and
I'm talking about the little red helmet with the yellow chin strap.
Oh yeah, no. I gave that up for Halloween.
Absolutely.
But I said no, I don't. Give me old stuff. I want to be warm and dry. That's.
But
I
you
don't
get
wanna-
it. That's
I
the
don't want to be
difference.
hot and
You
dry. I
get
want
it.
to be warm. Huh?
You get it. You understand that. Some of these other guys have to have the
The
newest,
latest
greatest, and best, and they don't.
I'll tell you one other thing I was really proud of, because we were talking about this, is making sure the kids know what to do. So we had a fire went to, I think it may have gone to a second. Fire started on the outside of the building, got right up into the attic, and then just had fun. So I was late to the party. So I come walking up and I see several Halligan bars, several hooks, some pig head axes, and some flathead axes lined up by type of tool on the front lawn. And I'm looking at that, and I was the safety officer, so I walked and checked in with the chief. And I go, "What's up with the tools?" He goes, "Juniors." I said, "You had the juniors bring all the tools out?" Juniors. They took it upon themselves. They saw guys getting dressed. They knew that the guys are going to need tools. They knew what tools they needed. They brought the tools right in front of the building, and they pointed to the tools when the guys came up, went over towards the truck, and they said, "They're all right there for you, right on the front lawn." So the guys came over, grabbed the right tool, went to work. Juniors. And then nobody had to give them that direction.
We run what we call an accountability cone. We have a green cone that goes into the front door or the entrance way of the building, no matter if they go on the C side, A side, B side, whatever. And if there's a junior on the rig, his responsibility is to collect the tags from that cone and get it as close as he can without being in the hot zone. And that's a big job. And his other job is to carry flashlights. That's it. Because whether it's daylight, dark, whatever, we need flashlights. And
Right. I got the same thing. I walk up.
The state's doing something now. We got both of my juniors are firemen's sons. They're 17 years old and they're going to the Morris County Fire Academy for firefighter 1 with live burns, and they don't get their certificates till their 18th birthday.
State of Connecticut just started
which is
that.
great.
So we can do
When they turn 18, I'm going to have 2 firemen.
So we have 3 kids in the present firefighter 1 class that will be 18 by the live burn. In Connecticut, you can't go into the live burn if you're under 18. So we have 3 kids in the firefighter 1 now, and literally the week before the live burn is scheduled, they turn 18. So yeah, they're going to come out.
Nick, that's actually not true anymore. They can go into live burns at 17 by the new guidelines that were issued by the commission. So the new guidelines is they can go into live burns. There has to be extra safety officers in place. They can actually meet all the requirements of Fire 1. And they can do all that. They just can't be certified, just like the chief. They can't get that certification until they're 18.
Okay. Right. Well,
they can do all that.
All right. That must have did that just change? Because
that changed about a year ago, about a year or so ago.
Oh, then there's some people we have to educate on that.
The new guidelines came out that allow for that, and some other things too, with extra safety parameters in place. Officers or tether lines for high if they're going up on a ladder truck or something like that. So
Yeah, because we want to do, so we're talking about doing a weekend day camp at Eastern, where it'll be so the state of Connecticut has Fire Academy has a great introduction to the fire service as Shelly was talking about. Um, but that's a residential program where what is that, 2 weeks or 1 week? 1 week,
They
right?
One
have
week.
1 week.
One
Yeah.
week.
Right. And there's two different levels. There's the first time you go and then the second time you go, I think,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So we said, let's do it. There's some kids that in that 14 to 16, right, that may not want to go away for a week, or maybe their parents don't want them. So let's do a couple of day camps and have it be stuff, not the same stuff, but similar that they would get in the introduction program. So it'd kind of be a feeder program. So I talked to PJ about that out to the FDIC. There's apparently there's apparently public health day camp rules that they've had, the hoops that they've had to jump. Oh, you would know that they've had to jump through to be able to do that. So that's our next investigation of a way to go. But but listen, awareness, hose lines, packing hose lines. There's a ton of ropes. Not only ropes. One of the best classes I did a couple weeks ago was like fire ropes, not rescue stuff, none of this fancy flying Walinda stuff. Just I want to take an extinguisher and get it to the roof or to the third floor, or I need a pike pole up the side of the building. Plain old clove hitches and half hitches and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all stuff those kids can do.
Yeah.
There's no
Mhm.
risk. There's no risk there. So that's what we want to try to do. And again, trying to get them early. My kids played sports. My son played sports. He helped me resuscitate people on the sideline a couple of times, but during games. But he had no interest in being in the fire business, because he really got into his sports was his literally 24/7. That was his life for 8 years until he went to college, and even when he was in college. Um, so again, we're trying to think of something, and maybe it's a kid that doesn't have a relative, or maybe it's a kid that does have a relative in the business, and we just give them a little taste of that. CPR, AED, stop the bleed. There's a gazillion things that we could be, and particularly for the kids, CPR, stop the bleed, right? That's all stuff they should probably have, right?
Right.
AED, today's world and today's with everything going on around in and around schools, why not offer that, and get them that may take them down to a first aid, to an EMT, that may take them to a law enforcement, that may take them to fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you see a lot this big push for these the fire EMS pathways that PJ and the state of Connecticut are working on for guidelines for high schools, for fire departments, who are looking to get those kids engaged. They can do it while they're going to high school, then get a certification, and they can get college credit, because they'll get college credit for those certifications for colleges that you go to, not even considering maybe colleges that you partner with outside of the state colleges, right? So
like
there's a lot of benefits to it.
Santa
Yeah.
Maria, there's a couple of fire colleges. Yes,
I want to
Shelley.
say something really quick. For the kids who go to high school or to go to school in the inner cities that have like the Hartford, Bridgeports, New Havens, where there is no volunteer department down the
Right.
street, or where there is no, or minimal information prior to getting onto the job, I do know Bridgeport did have a CPAT training for women, which I don't have the data on it, but I know that it was somewhat successful. I saw some of the women go through the CPAT program while I was working there. And so for the folks that are not in the volunteer towns, to me, it is so, so important that we, as fire chiefs in the larger departments, your outreach groups in your larger departments, really pull these young people in, and even if the Hartford high schools that don't have the training program that Steve is talking about, but just really pulling them in and giving them the knowledge. Just recently, I was at the fire academy and they were discarding a bunch of books. I'm a dumpster diver when it comes to fire stuff. Simply because, hey, if a child walks up to me and says, I'm thinking about becoming a paramedic, I will hand them a paramedic book. And I was fortunate enough to get a few hundred books from the fire academy that was not so outdated that I can use them, but
Yeah.
but here, let me sit down with you. The other thing is, let me just give a huge shout out to Girls Future Firefighter Camp. We will pack our camp and bring it to your department. So, I know that there are people that want, and I want as well, for this to be in the high schools, but there's going to be kids in that high school that will not walk into those classrooms because that's not their first choice.
Also, that might not be cool.
And it may not be cool, or their friends aren't going to that. But Girls Future Firefighter Camp, our instructors, our board is pushing to just say, here, let me come to your department for the weekend. What we need are fire chiefs that will say, sure, you can come. We're fully insured. We have safety precautions in place. We have background checks for our instructors, so you're not bringing some crazy person to your department. And we, all of us, are current or former police, fire, and EMS personnel. You can't get any better than that. And I would say out of all of our instructors, 99% of them are female. You can't be what you can't see. So when we walk into a department, like we went to Rhode Island, we walked into the department and there was one female on the department we went to in Rhode Island. The guys were like, holy cow. When I said we were coming with a camp, they thought we were coming with a frou-frou camp. Oh, this is so cute. And we have the little girls. It was nothing like that. It was firefighters that were making girls run towers and advance lines and open hydrants and things like that. And by the time we left, the fire chief and the firefighters were like, when are you guys coming back? This is phenomenal.
That's
So
awesome.
shout out to Nicole, who is one of our instructors, but also, and she's amazing. But also this camp, it's camp in a box. Why reinvent the wheel? You know what I mean? It's free for the kids. It's not free for the department, but why reinvent the wheel? We have it already. Just saying.
I think we had a question. Was that question all set?
Nope, it was just an applause.
Oh,
I
okay.
really like that. I really like what Shelly was saying, and I especially like that line. You can't be what you can't see.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's really poignant.
We learned a lot. So that before I retired, we were trying to open up the diversity of back up. Everybody was doing their own testing. So the career chiefs got together and said, listen, why don't we just all hire the same company and do like the cops do? The cops take one test, they check off the boxes of where they want the results to go. And then when they get done with the results, they go there. And now then the receiving department can decide who to interview and whatever. So they offered option to do that. It was incredibly interesting. They brought in the group that started this in Chicago. I learned so much about writing levels, reading levels, designing the test for what you want, designing a test for who you want to stop, all of this stuff. And it was actually pretty amazing that in the intent to get the best person possible, you may be just hacking off 33-40% of a population that'll be perfectly fine. Matter of fact, sometimes when we get the best, they turn out to be a pain in the ass because they know they're the best and they don't stay anyway.
Right.
But that's a whole nother conversation we can have about that. But again, we need to get out and like Dan said, there's got to be an open door. We're very Gales Ferry's very open door again. Anybody who wants to come.
Yeah, and you have to think about this. If you get a 16 or 17-year-old kid to walk in the door of the firehouse, not on his cell phone, playing a game or talking to somebody or on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, or TikTok, he's there for a reason. So you got to get him and grasp him and get him signed up and get him moving. Because 3 days from now, he could be playing 65 kids on
Yeah.
some kind of computer game and forget he ever came there because nobody called him and nobody talked to him, and he came and went and nobody showed an interest to him
We had
or her.
we have an opportunity. We have the military, the Navy submarine bases here, and the sailors get community points. You can actually get a medal for a community service. So that helps us out a great deal. We get a number of folks that'll come in. That's their opening into the building, but then they stay with us, right? Some of them stayed and retired and stayed here with us. Some of them they go away when they get transferred, they retire, they come back to the community and join back up with the company. Because again, that one of the things I'm proud of is we actually brought food back for our meetings. Is when many years ago when I first joined, we ate at every meeting. Didn't have to be fancy. We just something. So a couple years ago, we kind of kicked it around at a meeting and said, "Listen, let's just get together for hot dogs and hamburgers." Again, back to the family. Let's just get together. We don't have to. It doesn't have to be smoked. A big brisket. It doesn't have. Let's just have sloppy Joe. Let's get together a half an hour before, and let's break bread together, right? And then you can either have dessert then or you can have dessert after. And that was huge. We had folks that just started coming back, and they come earlier, so there's more social time.
Right.
Sometimes conflicts get worked out before you get to the room, right?
Yeah, Chief, what I wanted to tell you as far as the girls' camp as well, again, another barrier. We invite young people into the camp, young ladies into the camp. And and again, our audience is for everyone, but specifically for those young folks that have never really heard about the fire department,
Right.
and don't know that they can be firefighters. But the first thought is when they come to the camp, I don't know what their home life is like. I have no idea. And so my goal is we feed them. We make sure, hold on, sorry. We feed them, we make sure that they have, food to go home with. And so I call them firehouse meals because, everybody likes a good firehouse meal. But we make sure they have food to go home with. And parents have literally said to me, we didn't have any food at home. And so, as firefighters, we always, I know I did, always looked forward to the meals, the breakfast, the lunches, and the dinners, especially the dinners. But I'm teaching these young ladies, when you get to the firehouse, you're going to have that same meal sitting around the kitchen table mentality. But you have to feed their minds as well as their stomachs, and that kept them coming back. You know what? At least I know I'm going to, especially during the summer when school lunches weren't in, is not a thing. Let me feed you. Let me give you something to eat. Then they also go home with toiletry bags for young ladies, the things that young ladies should have that their parents may not be able to afford. So we have to tap into not just their becoming a firefighter, but helping them along the way in the process.
You need to have the social background, the social work background and support. Exactly. So they can do whatever they need to do. Because at that point, they're not earning an adequate income. They're not, they're trying to figure out what they want to do. And this is the opportunity they have to make something of them. This sounds corny, but to make something of themselves beyond what they're, I mean, for years, when you looked at testing, the white males and because if you lived in Hartford, Bridgeport, right, New Haven, wherever, Stratford, Stanford, whatever it is, if you lived in a big city, there wasn't a volunteer company. Well, some of them like on the outskirts, like Stanford or Stratford, one of them. Stanford, I think, had companies on the outside, but even then, it wasn't. There was. Now you may have lived next to a firehouse, and the guys there may have taken you in, right? But that was in some cases, but it wasn't all. So when these jobs became available, it was all these folks that had belonged to all these companies on the outside. And they had, and again, that goes back to, you want the best candidate, or you want a candidate that can be the best. And that's a hard, that for me, from my youth and my growing up, that was a hard, and what was hard for me to understand is, by the grade level of the question, you can decide who's coming and who's not coming. And I was not smart enough. I was not smart enough to understand that. And what that company showed us is, we can give you excellent candidates that you can develop into the best firefighters anywhere. But they're not the candidates you're going to get if you're using a 7th or 8th grade reading level in the test, you're not going to get those candidates. You're going to get the candidates that are that educated, and not everybody has had that opportunity.
Right.
And that was an eye-opening thing for me.
Right.
And we had done all
Never
kinds.
even thought about it, right? This
Never.
just wasn't in your mindset. It's like, we're just gonna get the best person, but if your stomach is grumbling,
Yeah.
and you know what I'm saying, like you're
No.
hungry,
Yeah.
they don't care about a Halligan. You know what I'm saying? They want a meal. And then when they are fed, they can hear you. And so a lot of times, we as fire leaders, we have to be able to tap into those concerns. And, we do it in our fire departments. People are already on the job, all the EAPs and, all the mental health care that we can give them as a department. But before they walk in the door, sometimes you have to pay attention to, what their concerns are. And that's why we need to train them ahead of time, or get that conversation going ahead of time.
I agree 110%. I think along the same line, though, is I think everybody here would agree that, everybody has their own baggage. They have their own thing. We've got vets that are joining. We've got people that have been domestically abused that are joining. We've got people that have all kinds of hangups, and or did not have the educational background. So I think one of the cool things that we try to do is, if we have, and this goes back to the mentorship, but more of a partnership, is if we have a young man or young woman, whatever the thing is, and we're trying to teach them, pump operations, or we're trying to teach them hydraulics or whatever, and there's an obvious hole there, right? We dive in, we dive in, and we go back to all those classes we never thought we'd ever use in high school, right? And try to, or we had one during COVID. We had one young lady who spent all of her day, school was closed, didn't want to be home, so she came to the firehouse. So when she was in math class and the teacher was doing the attendance, all the guys would go here when she would, right, and then the teacher would say, "Hi guys, good morning," or whatever, because they helped her out rather than her being home by herself. They were able to help her with that and do some other stuff.
Right.
Do we do any, Dan, do you guys do any, well, the Rutgers kids probably don't need a lot of tutoring, but do you guys do any kind of educational support or stuff like that?
For them to be firefighters, we run a mentor program for the firefighter to train a firefighter, or senior firefighters help with the
But what about education support, or like life support, like life lessons, or life living?
We have some senior members that, are in the mentor group that people could talk to, but educational wise, you see behind me, we have this big screen TV and, all kinds of rooms for the guys to go in and do stuff like that, educational wise. But,
Again, a lot of yours, or not a lot, but a good number of your folks are coming out of the college, so they have their own stuff that
we got probably 12. We probably have 12 Rutgers students that are active right now. But like I said, I'm losing a couple in 2 weeks, and hopefully the next semester I get some more. That's about it. But I mean, we run a good, we run a good program with the guys that don't live in town and do two duty crews a week, and we're getting the people out. That's the good thing for us. That's what
Yeah.
I look at. And with the guys kind of living at the firehouse, our response time is okay for the guys that are 6 minutes away, because the first engine's leaving within 3 minutes with four guys, four firefighters on it.
And I've been in your firehouse. They take very good care of it. And it really is, it is really like a home, right? Because you got a rec room, you got whatever. And then of course with the rental facility, there's always something going on there.
The kid that came here today, Dr. Apuzio, wrote a book about Kevin and the fire service. And I bought 40 of the paperbacks, and we gave them to the newer kids. And then anybody that comes in for an application, once they come back with their application, we give them a book just to take home and read it, and they can keep it or they can bring it back. So it's kind of a good thing too, because, people don't realize, like Kevin's mother, she thought Kevin was rescuing cats out of trees. She had no idea that he was running into burning buildings. No idea. And, we have a statue on the front lawn in a glass case, and there have been people who came here and after they got interviewed, turned in their paperwork and said, maybe this isn't for me. It's not for me. And we're okay with that, because we'd rather know now, tonight, than send you to the fire school and all that stuff and then show up for the big fire and be like, you know what? This ain't for me.
So on your Kevin's statue is on your website, right?
Correct.
So East Franklin, give me your website.
Station27.com, www.station27.com, and on Facebook, it's East Franklin Fire Department Station 27.
So again, not to go too far down this road, but if you've ever heard Billy Goldfeder's presentation done with Dan Krushinski called "Not Everybody Goes Home," Kevin Apuzio is one of the main I don't want to call them characters or main reasons for that presentation, and Dan and his crew had a life-size casting made of Kevin.
It is actually Kevin's dimensions. It's
Yep.
Kevin's gear that is bronze.
And then Dan's helmet. And then your helmet. But it is something, if you get a chance to take a look at it, it is moving. Kevin was a fireball, he was a firecracker, lit up the room, and one dark night, 5 people went into the basement and only 3 came out. And so we remember Kevin every year. But again, if you want to see how to really memorialize someone top shelf, take a look at that website. And then I'll take a right-hand turn so I don't get going. Listen, anybody else have anything that you guys do? Anything that you guys do that you just want to bring up? I mean, we kicked a lot of good stuff. This is what I'm getting out of this. It's a family. And all families have ruffles. All families have disagreements, but in the end, it's a family. And when the push comes to shove, 2 brothers that or a brother or a sister or 2 sisters or whatever that argue with each other all the time, when either one of those guys gets picked on by somebody else, you got to deal with the family. And when it comes to taking care of our communities, the family sticks together and the family gets it done. They may not be happy with something that's going on in the firehouse right now, but when the bell hits, it's family. And we're going to take care of the public. And we're going to do the best we can, right? So I think that's and the more we can do to create that family atmosphere and get them engaged and let them participate and let them contribute and let them give you some suggestions and let them comment on stuff. to make it so that they feel like they're not just wasting their time, the better we do. Steve, you have anything to add?
No, exactly what you said. I think culture has a lot to do with it. Getting your folks involved, trying to be equal expectations. I can say that that's can be difficult on the combination side, but we try to meet those as much as possible. Accountability. I mean, there's a lot of parts that play into that. And like you said, keeping people engaged. Engagement is a huge thing, especially now because there's so many things that can keep them not engaged in your fire service or in your department with everything going on, especially technology. So all those things, help you to hopefully get people in and keep them for, a good period of time.
Thanks, Chief. Shelly, anything to add?
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Nick, for this opportunity to talk about what is very near and dear to my heart. And that is making sure that we build and continue to maintain an inclusive department. And teaching young women, which is my platform, I'll teach anyone, but based upon what I do, teaching young women that they are more than capable, and making sure that the folks that are on the department welcome them and are inclusive of that, will help to increase women in the fire service, but also maintain that family atmosphere. When I came on the job, we were a dysfunctional family, but we were still family. And so it's real important that our leadership in the fire service understand that we have to look into the culture, look into the folks that have no knowledge of the fire service, because that generational fire service mentality is not maintaining what we need in 2024. So open the doors, roll up the windows. Let's see who we can catch with that wide net, as Austin talked about, and be there for them when they whatever they got going on. Be there for them, so that we can create folks like me, who is now a chief, that had no knowledge of the fire service. So thank you for this opportunity, Nick, and to all my fire brothers, you guys rock. Thank you.
Danny.
Well, I appreciate you having me here. And, Candace is hitting me up on Facebook, shouting for me because she actually wants me to go take this show on the road with the National Volunteer Fire Council, because I've been to Ohio, I've been to Myrtle Beach. I'll talk about what we do here at East Franklin as a department and as a volunteer department, to have 68 metal lockers and be able to keep people here. And I lose my Rutgers students, but I get some more in. I think for us, it shows a whole, not just for my officers and the leadership, but for the membership and the mentors and the ability to keep people interested in the volunteer fire department. And then the ones that grow out of here and become career and, make this their life. I think that's a good thing. I think, with the female firefighters that I have, I'll put some of those females up against some of my guys to cut a hole in the roof, without a doubt, without a single doubt. When you see the guy over there that can bench press 350 pounds and can't get a K-12 saw started, and the girl standing behind him telling him to get out of the way and starts it in 2 pulls, that's what we do. That's what we want that. It doesn't matter. Go up and cut the hole.
Right.
That's
all about the mission.
That's what, none of them show any interest in driving, which to me is okay. My one female, Monica, her father's an ex-chief in another department. Her mother's an ex-chief. They're both, her mother was a paid firefighter. And I keep saying, Monica, when are you going to drive? Yeah, chief, we're good. Somebody's got to be on the nozzle. I go, yeah, but you've been here 10 years. You got to drive. Nah, I'm good. You drive and I'll take the nozzle. It's like, whatever. And I'm okay with that. Because somebody's got to go in and put the fire out.
That's the one thing I don't do anymore. I don't drive.
Yeah.
I'll drive the pickup truck. I don't drive anything big. I don't.
But
Listen, one thing we didn't do, our crowd is dropping a little bit. Do we have any questions from the from the viewers? Anything at all? Nope. Nope. All right, so it's now it is formal commercial time. So again, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. I think this is one of our better shows that we've had. It was a great way to come back, and I truly I truly couple things that's exciting. So upcoming shows, we've got Mark Waters from the City of New London. City of New London just had a tremendous old school, old church. One of the mainstays in the middle of the community just decided to fall down one day. So that was a good multiple alarm USAR IMT activation kind of thing. He's going to be talking about that. Heard from Chief Frank Lee today. I had talked to him at FDIC. He just became a boss in a recommend in a I can't remember the organization, but we try to do a show every year on cancer. Cancer's not going away, and so he is just a myriad of just a tremendous amount of information on that. So we're going to be talking to him. We've also got feelers out. What's the stand up and lead, Danny? What's Chief? How do you say his last name?
Step up and lead.
Step up and lead.
Frank Visico.
Frank Visico. He's going to be coming. We're really excited about him. Dennis Rubin, the fixer. He went to Atlanta, then he went to DC, then he bounced around Maryland. He went out to Wisconsin. Now he's in Kansas City, Kansas.
He had a couple small departments he fixed, and now I mean, he's blasting Facebook every day with the things he's doing out there. It's great.
He's doing great. So he's coming on to talk about that. So we just got and there's more. I just can't remember them all. It's late and my brain's is spinning down. So watch for the listserv. Please, if you want to be added to our mailing list, many of you already are, please put that into the comments section. All right, and Jamie will capture that, and when we send out the invitations next time, you'll all be there. I really do appreciate everybody showing up tonight. So just so you guys know, I think I mentioned this before, Jamie will do her magic sometime in the next 48 hours, and this will be on Spotify. You can get there from either JLN Critical Conversations or Critical Conversations. All of our shows are on there. The first couple years are just sound, but as of last year, we now put them on in this format. So you can go back. We talked about Dennis O'Neill. He was on. Bobby Halton, John Sulca, Dennis Compton. There's just been a number of great speakers that have come on and I've been very, very fortunate, very, very lucky that they've come on to talk. So all that stuff is there. And sometime in the next 48 hours, there's a guy in Australia and a guy in Austria and someone in Germany and there's someone in England and then some other ones in South America that'll be listening to you. So I truly, really, really do appreciate you guys coming on. I think it was a very good show. If you guys have no other comments or other questions,
if anybody wants to hit me up on Facebook or my email address or whatever, I'll be more than happy to send you, what we do here on paper, and try and help your department out the best I can to maybe get some people and to keep. So that's it.
And before I forget, Tony sent me a little reminder. We test a lot of hose. A couple years ago, we tested 1 million feet of hose. We're back in that business. If you got something on the fire ground that needs testing, we can do that. Pumps, ladders, non-destructive aerials, hose, whatever. And so that team has already started. It's been out for 2 weeks already. They did three, I think they did 2.5 or 3 engines today. And I think they're going to Warwick tomorrow. But we're always looking for help. We're looking for retired folks or people that understand fire pumps and ladders and that stuff to do that kind of work. And then we're always looking for young folks, because I'm too old for this stuff, to do the hose testing. Again, we test a lot of hose every year. Many of the people on here are our customers, because we send out like 3,000 invitations every month. So we are looking for more help. If you have a rescue guy, a rescue gal, a squad, a team, whatever, we're doing a tremendous amount of confined space work, tremendous amount of power station outages. We're deep. We have people all over New England this week, next week, and the week after. So we're always looking for rescue minded folks that don't mind hanging off of ropes or climbing through small holes. And so again, we have those opportunities. All of that can be found at the JLN website. Jamie, JLN Safety? Which one is it?
It's safejln.com, which I'll put right here in the comments for everybody.
And Danny, we come down by you. So if you've got some guys that are into that stuff, let us know, because we're getting ready to go down to Washington, D.C. for about 3 months. So we've got work all over the country. So, we go down, I go down to New Jersey and Pennsylvania all the time. So again, if you got some guys that are interested in doing that, let them get a hold of us. It won't be all the time, but there's times when we go down there, and when we're down there for a couple weeks. All right. So again, that's for everybody here. An opportunity if you have rescue-minded folks. Other than that, I think we're all set. Thank you so much. See you next time.